A Good Girl's Guide to Murder has been renewed for Season 2, but the show must fix a severe mistake regarding a major missing character from Season 1. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 2 will follow Book 2 of the trilogy, Good Girl, Bad Blood. The cast for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder will likely remain the same, except for the introduction of a few new characters, including Pippa's new neighbors, Charlie and Flora Green. Good Girl, Bad Blood also features more of Connor Reynolds because the narrative revolves around his missing brother, Jamie Reynolds. Good Girl, Bad Blood raises the stakes in many ways because the mystery surrounding Jamie Reynolds' disappearance is more severe than the narrative initially suggests. There are more characters involved, including ones that the show has not yet included. Some of these excluded characters result from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder's book changes. The show alters character personalities, dynamics, and roles. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder even cut a book character that does not play a significant part in Season 1 but will become essential in Season 2. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 1 cut the book character Stanley Forbes. Stanley Forbes has a minor role in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 1 notably leaves out Stanley Forbes, a biased journalist who believes in Sal Singh's guilt. However, the first season works without Stanley Forbes. Stanley's only purpose in the first book is to become familiar with his character. There is also a scene involving Stanley and Howie that becomes pivotal in Good Girl, Bad Blood. Otherwise, Stanley Forbes is unnecessary in the first season, which is likely why the show left him out. Furthermore, Stanley Forbes was certainly not missed, given that his appearances in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder are frustrating. His bias against Sal Singh is rooted in racism, and he is utterly useless in Pippa's investigation into Andy Bell's death and Sal Singh's innocence. However, Stanley Forbes plays a more significant and entirely different role in Good Girl, Bad Blood, which would not work without his introduction in the first book. Unfortunately, this decision has potential repercussions for Season 2. Stanley Forbes plays a key role in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder's second book. Stanley Forbes is part of the plot twist in Good Girl, Bad Blood. Stanley Forbes' absence from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 1 creates issues for Season 2 because he plays a significant role. Stanley becomes part of Jamie Reynolds' case, making Jamie's disappearance much bigger than Pippa had thought. Although the show works without Stanley Forbes in Season 1, the fact that the narrative has not introduced him yet creates issues for Season 2. Good Girl, Bad Blood explores Stanley Forbes' character and dives deeper into his shocking past. However, these revelations will not hit the same way in the show if the narrative does not introduce Stanley right away. Pippa's investigation into Jamie's disappearance leads to an old serial killer case, where it turns out that Stanley is living under a false identity because when he was a child, his father, a serial killer, used him to lure his victims. Although Stanley was a child, it does not change the fact that many people still hold him accountable for his father's actions. The climax of Good Girl, Bad Blood has far more devastating consequences than A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and Stanley Forbes is essential to executing this climax flawlessly. How A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 2 can finally introduce Stanley Forbes. There are several opportunities to introduce Stanley Forbes and his missing scenes. The important thing for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 2 to do is to introduce Stanley Forbes as soon as possible. The beginning of Good Girl, Bad Blood has a commemoration for Andy Bell and Sal Singh. It would be an excellent opportunity to introduce Stanley. The sooner the narrative introduces Stanley, the faster viewers become familiar with him, which will amplify the shocking twists in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 2. The narrative should also introduce Stanley before Pippa meets Charlie and Flora Green. Another key factor to ensure A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 2 is well executed. Another critical moment that Season 2 must include is Pippa catching Stanley giving money to Howie, Andy's drug dealer. Although this scene occurs in the first book, it is still an essential moment that will bring Season 2's mystery full circle. As long as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 2 includes this scene, the earlier, the better, and introduces Stanley Forbes as soon as possible, then Stanley Forbes' absence in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder Season 1 should not matter.